Hello, hello! Welcome back to Video Facebook Live. I'm Monica, and today we are here with the lovely Miss Matchmaker herself, Jasmine Turner. Yes, thank you for joining us. Yes. I'm so excited. Today's topic, we will be talking about detoxing your relationship, past or present relationships.
Yes.
Let's jump right in.
Yes.
So, what does it mean to detox a relationship? We'll start with that.
So when I think about detoxing relationships, it's basically like releasing the bad things. Just like if you're detoxing your body, you're releasing the things that your body doesn't need. In a relationship, you're detoxing relationships. You're releasing yourself from those experiences that are preventing you from having future or current healthy relationships, right? So even if that's with someone you're currently in a relationship with, if you want to detox from some of those bad experiences so that you guys can have a healthy relationship moving forward, then you can detox. Or if you're like a lot of women, specifically my clients, who have had bad relationships in the past and you want to detox from those relationships because you want to be prepared to create new relationships, then you need to detox from those past relationships.
A fresh new start.
Fresh new start.
Right, and you can't do that when you're bringing on the baggage from old relationships. Right?
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll start maybe past relationships and then we'll talk about the present relationships.
For sure.
So the past.
Okay.
What's something we can do to detox from that?
Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is leave it in the past.
Right.
Right. So to detox from past relationships is first you have to, one, let go of the anger. Right.
And that's hard to do.
It's really hard to do.
I know.
I can use myself as an example. I had a really bad relationship. I think it was like years ago, like 6 years ago. It wasn't that bad. It was bad for me because I never really just dated like horrible guys.
Okay.
But it was hurtful, and I carried that anger for years.
Really?
And I didn't realize until I was forced to realize that it was preventing me from creating new and healthy relationships. So the first thing that you got to do is let go of the anger and the frustration from that past relationship in order to create new and healthy relationships.
And sometimes it seems like certain things will kind of spark up, like almost like a trigger. So it's like you may meet someone and instantly they kind of do something that reminds you of your past relationship.
Exactly.
So then you almost want to just like cut them off already.
Yeah.
How can we like not really have that mindset to do that?
Well, so Rachel Jane Grover is one of my favorite feminine energy experts. And one of her favorite sayings is what you resist persists. Right?
Oh, okay.
So if you've never let go of the anger from your past relationship, guess what? It's going to keep coming back, right?
Makes sense.
It's not going anywhere. And in order to do that, the first thing that we have to do is allow the emotion to pass, right? Anger, frustration, sadness, loneliness, whatever it is that you're feeling, that emotion is still there. What we do a lot of times though, instead of allowing that emotion to pass, we'll say, you know what, I'm not gonna worry about it. We'll start calling up everybody else on our phone, trying to avoid,
mask
mask it. We'll go drinking, we'll go shopping, we'll go eat food, we'll do everything we can to avoid actually allowing the emotion to pass, and it's just waiting for you dormant. It's just right there waiting. Like, you know what? Whenever you're ready, we're gonna deal with it.
But it's not gonna go away.
Exactly. So the first thing that you gotta do is allow that emotion to pass by recognizing that it exists. So say to yourself, I am angry. I am sad, I feel lonely, I feel betrayed, I feel taken advantage of. And if you need to cry, if you need to go punch a punching bag, if you need to go scream out loud, do whatever it is that you need to do to allow that emotion to pass. Because if you don't, it'll be right there waiting on you.
Now there's some people who, I don't like to say they like to, but some people wallow in that for a very long time. How long is too long that like you're dealing with this anger and it's kind of like, okay, now when's the point that you're gonna let it go? Like they're still holding on for like months, sometimes years, and it's like, okay, well at some point you have to let it go. Like you have to release it. So how do you know when it's too long?
I don't think it's a timing thing. It and that's going to vary from person to person because we all, ultimately move at our own pace. I think what's most important is to stop personalizing the experience, right? Okay. So when someone hurts us, we say they cheated on me.
Right.
They lied to me. They betrayed me. They did this to me. And while we're doing that, we are personalizing the experience, right? When in reality, they did what they were doing to themselves. They were doing what they desire. And unless they were just like a really terrible person, 9 times out of 10, you are not a factor in the decision that they made.
It's not about you.
It's not about you. I think that's the most important part, is understanding that what you experience and whatever it is that person did was never about hurting you or harming you. And once you can accept
how are you going to do it to a different person?
Until they fix themselves, right?
It's not about you.
It was never about you.
That.
And I think that's the part that we have to come to understand. And once you get to that point, then you can start to move on, because how can you be angry at someone that never did anything to you?
Right.
And ultimately, they were the ones who made the commitment, and so they lied and cheated on themselves.
Right.
You know, they made the commitment to be in the relationship. You held your part. You made a commitment to yourself. They made the commitment as well. So they are lying and cheating on themselves, not on you.
Right.
And so once you let go of you can let go of the anger once you accept that it was never about you. They were never intending to hurt you. They were doing what they desire. And ultimately they cheated and lied or whatever on themselves, not you.
And then I'm sure that it also helps to forgive that person.
Yeah.
And that helps to also let go of everything.
Yes,
right?
Forgive them for being human.
Right.
Because the reality is we're all human.
And it happens.
And it happens. And if someone's in your life long enough, they're going to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just the reality of it. And if you want to forgive, a great thing that I tell people to do is write a forgiveness letter. You ever written a forgiveness letter before?
Yes, and you never sent it, right?
Or
you're supposed to send it? Because I never sent mine. Mine's just on my computer, right?
No, so I tell people to write it down, right? Okay. I personally, because the goal when I'm discussing forgiveness letters is to like move on from that experience.
Okay.
So part of really forgiving someone is, you know, obviously recognizing the emotion, recalling what happened in the experience, but saying in the letter, this is what happened and I forgive you.
Okay.
Right? And because I've forgiven you, I am moving on from this experience.
I'm fine now.
I am fine now. I am moving on from this experience. Fold that letter up, put it in an envelope, throw it away, or burn it. Right?
Okay.
So you're ultimately,
so you don't send it to the person.
You are releasing yourself from this negative experience from the past so that you can really forgive. And so that's the real way to get rid of the anger. Write a forgiveness letter.
Gotcha.
Stop personalizing it, you know, and you can let go that way.
So a lot of people, I want to say, are kind of in denial about them holding on to this anger.
Yeah.
How are there different signs, and how do you know when you should be detoxing?
I think it's all about the emotion, right? So when you think about the experience, like what emotion are you still having, right? And if you're still angry, you're still crying, which is fine. But that just means you have to work a little bit more on forgiving and moving on from the past, right? So like in order to move on, you really have to move on. And if it's still there and still continually manifesting itself, even in new relationships, well then, you know, that it's going to continue. So then you need to work on it. I had a friend one time. It's interesting because she told me she was with her new guy and he'd done nothing wrong. And like he was actually being nice, and she just started crying like, oh my God. It was because of some experiences she had from the past, but because like whatever it was that happened there that brought those emotions up, it triggered it, right? So it was lying dormant, waiting on her,
right? And I'm sure that happens. So when that does happen, how, like, what are some things that you can kind of tell yourself, like, to acknowledge that, okay, this is a trigger, but this person didn't do anything to me. Like, I'm just bringing up past things that has happened to me, and not to let it affect my current situation, relationship, whatever.
Again, going back to leaving the past in the past, right? And so taking those steps. Writing forgiveness letter is a great way to do that. No longer personalizing it is another way to do that. And then also like allowing the emotion to fully pass. Because once you allow that emotion to fully pass and go through the full experience, it shouldn't affect you the way that it did before you allowed that emotion to pass, right? So it's kind of like, and it's very human of us to do this. So imagine if you have a scab, right? And it's not completely healed, and you know it's not healed, but you just continue to pick at it. You know, we do that sometimes with those emotions. Yes, it has to heal if you stop picking at it. If you say, all right, I'm moving forward from this, I am allowing this emotion to pass, I am going to no longer personalize it and accept that this was not about me, and I'm writing my forgiveness letter, and then I am really intentionally moving on. You're not continually picking at it anymore.
So should a person try to move on before, or I'm sorry, should a person start dating new people before they fully healed? Or is that just a bad idea altogether?
I wouldn't suggest it. I wouldn't suggest, like, because what you do is you oftentimes go and ruin other people, and now everybody's out here. It's not their fault. You're going around, you're ruining other people. And you know, we hear those stories sometimes where I saw a guy post the other day where he was like, oh, I was so broken when this person came in my life, and you know, now I'm healed and all that. And I was thinking, like, you know, lucky you turned out that way, because it could have been a whole other way that you know. So I personally don't believe in expecting someone else to help me heal from my own, you know, past experiences.
It should be your responsibility.
It's your responsibility.
You shouldn't put that burden on anyone else.
No,
it's not fair to them.
You go around most of the time. You're going around hurting other people, and now they have to carry that experience to the next experience.
And it's just a cycle.
It's a cycle.
Because they end up being hurt, and then they may do that to it's a cycle.
It's a cycle. It's a cycle. So let's break the cycle, y'all.
Yes,
like
please.
let's work on ourselves and identify what we've experienced and move on from that.
Right. So let's talk about current relationships and detoxing your current relationship that you may be in.
Mm-hmm.
Do you, in order to detox, do you have to step away from that person? Do you almost have to like take a break or break up with them in order to do that? Or can you be detoxing while you're still in a relationship?
You know, I think it's difficult to detox from a relationship while you're in the relationship. So I'm not saying that you have to break up, right? Okay. So maybe detox is not the right word. Okay. Can you address certain issues that are in a relationship? Absolutely. But I think in order to do that, it's all about you two working together, right?
Yeah, it can't be one-sided.
I believe, you know, a relationship, love, healthy relationships is all a decision, right? It's two people that come together who have made the decision to make it work with each other.
Yeah.
Okay, so once both of you have decided we have a problem, Houston, we have a problem, let's work on this, then you can, you know, ultimately work on that. But it has to be done together. Okay. If you're going to move forward. Now, that doesn't mean that, you know, that doesn't mean that whatever I have to work on, it takes my man to work on that with me. Like, I can work on the issues that I have individually myself, but he needs to be aware of that, and he needs to be aware of what I'm working on.
Now, what if the issues aren't so much about yourself, but they're kind of about the other person?
Okay. So then you guys have to work together on that. And it would vary on whatever the issue is, but like there has to be a decision that, one, recognizing that you have a problem, right? So it's not just an emotion, right? Because like you're still in this relationship. And so it's not as easy as saying, okay, I'm going to recognize the emotion and I'm going to forgive and move on if the problem is still there. Right? So if this person, if you're in a relationship and, you know, they didn't hold their word on something, or, you know, they cheated, right? You can't just say like, oh, I am angry and, you know, now I'm going to move on from this because, like, have you addressed the cheating? You know,
we can talk about that, right?
So I think it's different when you're in an actual relationship. You got to first deal with the problem, and then you can go and work on the emotions and and how you felt because of the problem. And sometimes that requires individual work. Sometimes it requires working together.
Of course. Now, what if a person is having these issues, so let's say with cheating, and the other person's like, I've seen one person have an issue in the relationship, and the other person's like, our relationship's fine. Yeah. How can you address that without it becoming an argument, without, you know, you guys breaking up in the end, like you're trying to keep it going, you know?
Yes, it also goes back to the decision again. Yeah. Right? Once you two have decided that you're going to work on the relationship together, that means
the other person also has to decide.
The other person has to also decide that they're going to work on it. And that doesn't mean that you always understand it. Right? Okay. So I could technically find something wrong in my relationship, and the person that I'm with may not understand what I find wrong, but because he's committed and has made the decision to make the relationship work, he's going to work on this with me.
He'll put in the effort.
He'll put in the effort
to work on it.
Yeah, because you can't have a relationship and one person's having a problem and like the other person's like, well, you know what, I'm good, so this is
figure it out.
Like, you know, it's about a decision. Like, are you committed to taking this relationship to the next level? And that comes down to like either you're going to work on it or not, even if you don't understand. Right. I think we get confused and start to believe that we should always understand what's going on with the other person.
You don't always have to.
No, we're two human beings, right? Like, we're two completely different human beings, and there's no way. Even I have best friends that literally, like, we know everything about each other, and still they can say or do things that I'm like, you know what? I don't understand that. Right. You know, but because I am committed to like my friend, like if they tell me there's a problem, even though I don't understand it, let's work on it. Yeah. Because that's what they need right now in this relationship. But I'm not just going to do it for that person. They're also going to do it for me too. Right. Yeah.
And the other person shouldn't make you feel crazy about feeling this type of way, because everyone is entitled to their own emotions.
And
so if they are, saying, no, we're fine, like they're trying to convince you otherwise without saying, okay, I hear you, let's work on it, then maybe they're not the one. If they're not willing to work on it with you.
How
does that work?
So look, I don't believe in the one.
Okay. Oh.
Because I believe there are several ones throughout the world. Like there's billions of people in the world. Like the idea that there's just one person. Like it sounds great in Disney movies, but
but real life.
Not really. So I forgot. The one kind of distracted me. What was the question?
No. It was okay. No, if the person's the person's not really willing to work on it and they're kind of like, you're crazy, like you're all in your head, our relationship's fine.
Yeah. Ultimately, you have to really ask that person, like you have to like communicate with them and say, all right, this is what's going on and this is preventing me from being my best self and the best person that you need in this relationship. And in order for us to take the next step, we have to work on this. Now, does that mean that the person's automatically going to decide that day to work on it?
Obviously not.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Give them some time, but if they just absolutely refuse to work on it, then what do you do? Are you going to be unhappy?
Right.
Just to stay in that relationship? You can't do that.
Sense. Of course. Now, we talked about infidelity. We talked about cheating.
Yeah.
Once that happens, when you're already in a relationship, which I've seen plenty of times, what should a person do in order to forgive but not hold on to that? Like they want to stay in the relationship and, maybe apologize, whatever, and you want to accept the apology and you want to move on, but there's that thing in the back of your mind that's still like, I hate you. Like what advice would you give that
person that has been cheated on and the person the partner has apologized?
Yeah, they apologize. You decide to stay in the relationship even though they cheated.
Okay.
But how do you keep that trust? It's hard.
It goes back to the beginning, letting go of the anger, right?
Okay.
So one, no longer personalizing it.
Okay.
And so this is a really tough point, and I might take you to the next level here, but we have to get rid of this idea of ownership of each other. That doesn't mean that a person can go out and cheat on you, but I think when we believe we have ownership of someone, when they cheat, we take it really personal.
Yeah.
When in actuality, they were cheating on themselves. They made the commitment. It was never about you. And so I think we have to take that part out of the process. And once you can accept that, that decision they made, that movement they made, that action they took was not about you, and it was something that they had to do within themselves. Because when we get in a relationship, we say, okay, we're going to be together, it's just going to be the two of us, and we're not going to cheat. And then I go cheat. Yeah. I cheated on myself because I made that commitment. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's not that, my guy has ownership of me. I made a commitment to someone that this is what I was going to do. And so when you find yourself doing things like cheating, well then I have to address that within myself because that's a commitment that I made. Those are words that came out of my mouth, and my word is no longer what I said it would be. Right? So one, no longer personalizing it, right? But I think the second part is if you decide that you're going to stay, you gotta let it go.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's where we find the problem. If you're going to stay,
they always want to bring it back up, hold it over their head, and it's so why did you stay if you were always going to be or thinking I'm going to keep doing it again? So before you go back and say, all right, we're going to do this, then you have to do the work in order to say, all right, we're going to start with a new slate. Right. I'm going to attempt to trust you again. You're going to do what it takes to make it easy for me to trust you again. Yeah. But at the same time, if you do anything, it's not about me. I'm not going to personalize it. It wasn't because I wasn't attractive enough or smart enough or whatever. It was literally because that's the person that you are, and that's what you have to work on because you committed. Right. And you broke your own commitment. Right. They have the problem. They have the problem. That's not your problem. Of course not. Of course not. Okay. Good question.
Yeah. How do you deal with someone who bottles their emotions in and has a problem expressing themselves?
Ooh, that's a good one. Especially men. Men do that.
So we could talk all day about why men do that. So people that are bottling their emotions in and have a problem expressing themselves, I think the best thing that you can do. So let me answer this two ways. First thing is it's not your responsibility to create, to get a person to express themselves. They have to find that and desire that within themselves. So oftentimes we find ourselves trying to make a person be the person we want them to be. Yes. You can't do that. Yeah. you can help foster an environment where they feel comfortable expressing themselves by allowing them to be vulnerable. So what that means is when they say things that you don't understand or you think is strange or weird or whatever, you don't react in that way. You accept them for who they are at that present time, so that then they can understand and realize, like, all right, I can be myself in front of this person.
Right.
A lot of times when we find men specifically who have a hard time expressing their emotions, it's because they've never been allowed to express their emotions, or when they did express their emotions, it was shunned.
Yeah.
Right? So we start this with little boys early in life. We tell them, like, boys don't cry.
Right.
Or boys aren't supposed to feel this way, or boys aren't supposed to do this, and when in reality, like, they're just human beings like everyone else.
They should be able to, right?
And so ultimately we have to learn to foster environments that allow men and women to feel comfortable, you know, being who they are.
Right.
And I think that's the only thing that you can do, is that when they are expressing themselves, you allow them to be whoever it is that they are, and you don't judge them, and then they'll be more comfortable. But you have to remember, that's not your responsibility. Like, you can't, they need to either go to a therapist or, you know, decide to work on it themselves. But like a regular person, it's not your job to get them to express themselves. The only thing you can do is make it easier when they do.
Yeah. And I really like that you said to make them feel comfortable, because a lot of the times, like you said, men, they're afraid of the outcome. Like, they're afraid, if I say this, she's going to get mad, she's going to start yelling at me and all of that. So it's like, have a neutral, calming environment for them to, right. So then if they do express themselves, if the first thing in your mind is to react, get upset, just, you know, kind of tell yourself not to, so they can be completely honest and not start lying or just anything else.
Right, exactly. Like, you want them to know that even if it's weird and strange or whatever it is they say or do, it's like, all right, like, I'm not going to judge you.
Right, I like that.
It is not easy, but
no.
listen, especially if it comes down to, like, them saying things that not necessarily about you, but sometimes we have this picture of what a relationship looks like.
Yeah.
And so when they start saying things that are outside of, like, our little perfect picture, we want to bring them back in the box, right? When in reality, we're then saying, all right, what you think and what you feel is not okay. And so, like, they then hold that stuff in.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So the person who wrote that question sent a follow-up saying, what if you've been with them for a year and you let them know that you're there and you're a support system for them, but they still shut you out?
Again, it's one of those things they have to work on themselves. There's nothing you can do. If you foster that environment and allow them to be vulnerable whenever they are, and they're still struggling with that vulnerability, that's something they have to go work on.
It's a personal issue.
And they have to first make the decision to work on being more vulnerable versus, like, you know, you telling them they need to be more vulnerable. They need to see that it's something they need to desire themselves. They need to want it themselves. Otherwise, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, yeah. And I just want to add to that as well, that almost make an examples. So make sure that you are just as, you know, comfortable telling them things. Because if you're also closed off, you can't really expect the other person to feel comfortable telling you things if you're not telling them things. So that would definitely help as well.
Be the example. That's a good one.
So
You should be a matchmaker.
I thought about it. Maybe in the works. You never know. But okay, so what if that person, what if you are trying to help yourself become, you know,
more vulnerable?
Especially, I know a lot of women, we are afraid of doing that, especially like in the beginning when the guy's like, you know, just tell me what's wrong and all that, and you kind of just don't want to say anything. You're kind of in your shell.
Why don't you want to say anything? You're afraid.
Yeah, you're afraid.
It's fear.
Yeah, it's out of fear. Maybe because you don't want them to maybe think you're crazy, or I don't know.
You're presenting your representative.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
So oftentimes vulnerability is like, when people are afraid to be vulnerable, when people have a hard time being vulnerable, it's because they're afraid of the results of that vulnerability.
Yes.
So, like, we can be afraid of being vulnerable in relationships because we have trust issues. Or we can be afraid of just being open and honest about who we are because, you know, we've been judged before for being that person.
Yeah.
Or, like, somebody's like, oh, I see the real you and I don't want that.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, definitely.
So it goes back to, one, addressing that fear. Why are you afraid of being vulnerable? So if you're afraid of explaining or of being your true self in the beginning of dating someone in a relationship, it's because, like, you're afraid that person's not going to like you.
Your true self, yeah.
Right?
And that's not good, because it's like,
you will
eventually they're gonna have to see your true self anyway. So don't put on a facade in the beginning.
Exactly. So you gotta identify where that fear is coming from. Once you know where the fear is coming from, then you can address it. You can say, okay, I'm afraid of being vulnerable because A, B, and C. And so once you know why you're afraid and where that fear is coming from, then you can work on that fear.
And sometimes I've heard and recognized, and also myself, maybe not wanting to say things because you're like, I don't think they're gonna understand. Like, there's no point in saying it; they're not gonna understand me. Like,
that's a
but
fear.
like you said, right? But like you said, it's okay if they don't understand.
Right.
Like they don't have to understand.
If you have a partner that allows you to be vulnerable.
Right.
Right.
Right. Okay.
And that becomes more challenging than we think it is, because a lot of times, like, our natural reaction is to judge people because that's just the society we live in. So when they say things that are abnormal to us, we're like, wait, no, you're not supposed to feel this way. You're not supposed to think this way. You're not supposed to have these desires. Be honest. Literally, like,
don't look at me.
So when you start, when that happens, then like we're like, okay, I'm going to hold these things in because I don't want to be judged.
Right. That's not good in the long
run. It's not good,
obviously.
because you want to be happy.
Yeah.
And a lot of it also goes back to self-love, like a real, true, genuine self-love. Because when you have that real, true, and genuine self-love, like, you're okay with people not accepting who you are.
It's fine.
Because you want to know that that person is not someone you're compatible with. And so, like, me personally, I'm going to put it all out there up front.
In
like,
the beginning.
Yo, this is who I am. These are the things I'm working on, blah, 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 blah.
Take me or leave me.
I want you to be like, no, I can't handle that.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay, well, you know.
And that saves time.
It saves time.
Because eventually it's going to have to come out, and sometimes you may be a year in, and you're like...
and you're like, oh,
waste
by
all this
the way,
time.
I am so different from everything I showed you the first 6 months. Like, no.
Right.
Be upfront. Be who you are, because your goal is to find the person you're compatible with, not to be the person that someone else wants you to be for a relationship. You want to find the person you're compatible with.
Of course. Do we have any other online questions? Okay. So let's talk about fixing communication in a relationship. And well, just that in general. What are your thoughts?
Fixing communication in a relationship. It all, again,
goes back to... Okay, so all of these have the same root.
No, yeah. I mean, it's like identify what the problem is, right? Like, I think a lot of times, like, we want to find like a general brown Band-Aid that we can just put over every scab, but like one person's communication issues could be completely different from another person's. But have you two made the decision to make it work? Right? If you both have said, all right, we're going to do what it takes to make this work, and then you can have that conversation of, all right, here's what's going on. When we talk about communication, though, this is a really important part. Know when you can have a conversation without all of the emotion and the attempt to hurt the other person.
Right. Okay.
All right. So what I do is I focus on what I'd like to accomplish in the conversation.
Yes, like what's the end goal?
Before I have the conversation.
Okay.
Right? So when there's a problem, we're fussing or arguing about whatever, right? The first thing I think about is like, okay, what do I want to happen here?
Right.
Right? So then I say, all right, if I say this, is that going to lead to my ultimate goal of us like finding a common ground?
I like this. So almost having like a pre-conversation of how like the web of how it would go.
Exactly. Having that pre-conversation, because a lot of times we want to act out of emotion, like you did this and you said this and blah 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 and blah blah blah.
Argument, no one's listening
and
to
no
each
one's
other.
Listening, right? But instead, sometimes you got to pull back and you know what, and say, all right, I'm too emotional right now. I'm too much in my feelings right now. I can't have this conversation.
I like that.
But what I would like to happen at the end, this is a conversation I'm having with myself. What I like to happen at the end is that like we find a common ground and we get to back to the point of like being happy and excited again. Right?
Yeah.
And if I go in there and say and tell him everything he's done wrong, that's not going to lead to that.
Of course, because the person, if you're attacking someone, they're just going to get defensive. They're not really hearing what you're saying.
Exactly.
So, would you maybe advise? Because I think I do this, and I've heard other couples do this as well.
Yeah.
If you have an issue, you kind of not right away talk about it, but you kind of just take a minute, how you said, kind of have the conversation, so it's not just all emotion.
Exactly.
So almost being like, can we talk about this in an hour? Like, just give me a second to cool down.
Exactly.
Right now, I'm hot, and I'm about to just start throwing jabs at you, and it's gonna be bad.
Listen,
nothing will get
I'm the queen of jab throws. Listen to me. That's what you don't want. So it's best for me to just pull back.
Yeah.
You know, walk away. hang up the phone, whatever it is that you need to do, to say, all right, let me think about what I'd like to accomplish here. And once you identify like what you're really trying to accomplish, then you can say, okay, this is how we should have this conversation. But it takes two emotionally mature people to have that type of conversation.
For sure.
Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of finger pointing.
Yeah.
You got a question?
I have a question.
What's up?
How can you, okay, so as people grow in relationships, they grow individually, and sometimes that causes differences in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you, when you're in a relationship, reset your expectations to meet your partner where they are, or should you?
Key words you said, and there's like expectations, right?
Yeah.
I think we have to be careful about expectations of another human being, right? So how old are you?
26.
26. So I'm not 26, right? So I got a few more years on me than that. Quite a few more years, right? But what I've experienced in these 25 years of life, what I've experienced in my years of life have led me to address and react to things a unique way to me.
Okay.
What you've experienced in your years of life have led you to think, react, respond to things a way that's unique specifically to you. It's like our thumbprint, right? It's unique to us because that's what we've experienced in life. And so there's no way for me to have expectations for you in a friendship or even a relationship, right? Because I'm not you.
Right.
I can only expect you to do and be who you are and who you tell me you're going to be.
Right.
Right? And so I think that's the most important part, is to like be careful with expectations of another person, especially when they never told you this is who they're going to be. Because how I see love, life, relationships, how I react to the person blowing the horn at me out there is going to be completely different from you. So we have to limit our expectations of another human being that has lived on this earth and had all of these experiences that's completely different from what you've had.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, great answer. So, in relationships, if a person is, let's say, I'm just trying to figure out how to say this. Okay, so if they are happy in their relationship, but they have issues, should a person always address every single issue? Like, I've seen people say, like, not everything, like, there's some things you can just, like, keep in, not everything has to be an argument, like, you don't have to bring every single issue, like,
So that's like the old women's advice.
Right.
As always, to pick your battles.
Pick your battles.
I'm a pick your battle girl.
Okay.
Right? Like, I believe in picking your battles for sure. I think you want to address the major things.
Right. If it's like, depending on how important it is to you.
Doesn't compromise your morals, values, and life goals.
Okay.
Right? So
I like that.
That's the areas that you look at to determine if you're compatible with someone. And so, is it something that's stepping outside of what your morals, your values, life goals, and what you two have decided upon, how you're going to pursue your relationship? So people do, like, we're humans, like, and we have to accept that, like, we are different. Like, you're never going to meet the one. Like, there's the one that is going to just understand you and is going to have everything, and somehow, like, all the other issues you've had in the past, and you're like, no, like, like, they're human beings. And so ultimately it's about, like, focusing on the things that could ultimately long-term affect your relationship.
Okay.
But when people do small things that, like, it just irritates you, and no matter how bad it irritates you, like, sometimes you gotta be like, oh my God, I hate this part about my man.
Right.
But it's okay.
Because everything else is there.
It's not compromising my morals. It's not compromising my values. It's not affecting my life goals.
I like that.
He's another human being who's had a whole different life, whole bunch of experiences that have led him to react and do things the way that he does things. And he's not breaking his word to me. It's not compromising my morals. It's not compromising my values. And it's not compromising my life goals.
I want you to say it one more time. Your morals?
Morals, values, life goals.
Life goals. Okay. Yeah. So if it's not compromising those, if not hurting those, chill out a little bit. It's okay.
Chill.
Everything has to be an argument. Right. I like that. Okay, definitely. So, okay. I feel like we've been talking for so long and we have a lot more to say. You guys, please ask some more questions. Jasmine, thank you so much for coming. Please let us know your website.
Yes, all right, guys. So come find me on Instagram at Jazz Loves Love, JAS Loves Love. Facebook, same thing, Jazz Loves Love. And my website is BlackMatchMade, BlackMatchMade.com. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. You guys don't forget to subscribe to our page, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, follow Jasmine. If you need some help, hit her up. She will help you.
Yes.
She's the matchmaker over here. Have a great day, guys.
All right,
Until next time.
guys.
Bye.